want to go back to the very beginning. You're from Bakersfield, right, originally?
Yeah, well, I was born in Arkansas, and then I've been raised in Bakersfield for 30 something years.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is home for sure.
Wonderful. Well, home is where it all starts. So tell me about just what were you like as a kid? Were you just like, microphone in hand from the very beginning, could sing before you could talk? What were you like?
Well, I grew up in a home where music was extremely normal. My mom and dad both, the first, I don't know, probably 5, 6 years of my life, we lived in a motorhome and traveled around the country, and they did music, and so it was just such a normal part of my life. I joke all the time that I was like, 10, 11 years old before I realized that not all families would sit around a piano and sing together. Like uh, yeah, I'd have friends come over and we'd be, my dad would start playing, and my mom would start singing. I'd join in, my brother would join in, and they just look at me like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know. What do you mean? Is this not normal?" um, but yeah, but I didn't really start taking music seriously until I became a teenager. I think I started kind of playing guitar, which was the first thing that I fell in love with. And then I started writing music around 14, and they were awful, awful songs. But you got to start somewhere. And so yeah, I started writing, and I think the biggest leap I made in music was when I joined the chamber choir at Ridgeview. It's where I graduated, and when I joined the chamber choir there, it definitely it 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 changed a lot for me because skill wise, obviously I grew a lot, but also being a part of you know performances and stuff like that outside of the church world, because the only place I'd ever sung was in church, and so that was the first kind of experience I had of that, and yeah, and so that's kind of how it all started for me.
Amazing. And it's so cool that you found that love so early on in your life. So, I know that you're a pastor at New Life, and
Uh-huh.
that obviously music is such a big part of your life. So is the Lord. What has it been like just being on this journey, this music journey at The Voice, and kind of having this? I feel like when you are a person of faith, you have a sense of purpose, like everything's kind of aligning. So how did this align for you, and how have you felt throughout the journey?
Man, well, for me, I think this entire existence is a gift, and it's something not to be squandered. And it's so, and that's not to mean like, always feeling like you're missing out. It's the opposite. It's doing the most you can with every given situation you've been given, and that might be a little bit, and that might be a lot. And so when this opportunity came up, um, you know, this isn't necessarily something I was chasing. It just kind of started to unfold and happen. And me and her, and we talked about it, it was like, man, let's see how far this rabbit hole goes, just kind of, uh, that's been with anything. I remember when I did Idol back in 2010, it was the same kind of thing, and it was over pretty quick. I made it to Hollywood Week, and that was the end. But it wasn't ever something I pursued. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like some big thing that I was chasing. um, Ministry is always the stable part. And for me, being a pastor, uh, traditionally has this element of being a part of, a church, and but being a pastor is a calling on my life, regardless of what my role is. And it's about caring for people, and trying to inspire people to continue on their journey and find hope in whatever else, whatever it is they're doing. And so music and pastoring always go hand in hand for me. They're not separate. They're part of who I am. And whatever whatever season of life that God is wanting me to kind of do more with, whether it's doing, pastoring side of things, or
Yeah.
whether it's doing music, I'm all in on whatever he kind of opens the door for. And so you know, for me, it's kind of a simple existence, but it constantly keeps me living like I am living with purpose. And, you know, that's, I think that's the most important thing for anybody, is to live with purpose and not feel like you're missing out on something, you know, but trusting that God has you placed right where you're supposed to be for whatever given time he's given you.
You mentioned American Idol. So clearly like you've had like a whole other music life even before The Voice. So what was it like were you pursuing music once you found out that you loved it as much as you did as a teenager? What's that journey been like before The Voice?
Yeah. So when we got married at 20 years old, and we moved back to Arkansas. She was going to school at UCA there in Arkansas. Um, and so I started playing music. That was my first time cutting my teeth when it comes to like actually getting out there and gigging, you know? And so we did that. I did that for a couple years while I was out there. Um, and then as things progressed, I mean, like I said, music's always been, uh, a, a part of me that I haven't hidden. You know, I love playing. I love being out there. Uh, I love I love all kinds of music. My playlists are very all over
Diverse.
the place and diverse. Um, but yeah, storytelling is a big part of what I love to do, and so yeah, throughout this whole thing, you know, I feel like having a home base, which is Bakersfield and New Life, has always been kind of the thing that I'm still a homebody. I love to travel. I love to play music, but I'm still a homebody kind of person. And so, um, you know, it's never really been either or for me. It's just always been
A part of who you are.
part of who I am. And yeah, and just trusting that, you know, I try to just keep my heart right is the biggest thing. I think always is just trying to keep my heart right. And, but yeah, I mean, when the Idol thing happened, that was a crazy kind of surprise as well.
You
I
went
mean,
with your brother, right? Because
yeah,
Jonathan was trying out and he went with his brother. And then he calls me and he's like, hey, so I did this thing while I was there with my brother. I'm like, wait, what? What's happening? So that was the first one. It was just really fun and exciting.
Yeah. And then, you know, when it was over, it was like, I wasn't I wasn't sad. You know, I didn't have my breakdown moment. You'll see me again type of thing, you know. I wasn't really, it was just going with it. It was fun, and it just seemed like a silly roller coaster ride I got to ride, and that was the end of it.
Right, that was something that kind of happened. You did it, and then next thing you know, we're fast forwarding all the way to 2020.
Yeah.
So between that time, were you at all gigging? Were you like, music's kind of a hobby now? What was kind of that time period?
Yeah, well, there was quite a bit of time that went in between that, you know, probably about 10 years.
Yeah.
And so during that time, I played lots of music during that time. I mean, like I said, I'm always playing music. There's our band that I played with here around Bakersfield, Soul Jar. We made a lot of music during that time. I cut a worship album in 2014, and did some stuff with that and played some conferences and different things like that. So yeah, I kind of did all of it in between there. And then when The Voice came along, you know, it was funny. It was a little over a year ago now. We were sitting here and we were watching the finale of, what would that be? 17 season 17. And I got on there to see when the next season started. I got on their website to see when the next season started. And there was a little tab that said audition, send in a video or something like that. So I sent in a YouTube link, and that was it. And that was my audition. And wound up getting the phone call, and about a month later, and then this whole journey kind of started to unravel from there.
Camilla, so for you watching kind of Jim's journey from the moment you guys got married at 20 to now, like he's obviously gone through so many different phases of his music career and his time as a person. Like, what has it been like watching that progression and then ultimately seeing like, him get second place on The Voice?
Yeah, I think that just like he said, we've grown up with music in our homes. Our moms were best friends growing up as teenagers, and they were in their first singing group together in Arkansas. So it's just always been music everywhere that we go. And so when we got married, you know, I didn't know what I was getting married to, if I can say that, because we didn't know what he was going to do. We didn't know what I was going to do with my future. I was going to college, but so when he started gigging and just performing, it was like, all right, like this is fun. This is a fun thing to do. And then God called us back to Bakersfield to be worship, you know, for him to be a worship pastor. And so I just thought this was our life. This was our journey. This is what God had for us. So then when he started jumping out and doing all these gigs around town and doing music, writing music, I was like, all right, we have multiple facets of this man. And I love it because he sings music that is in the world. He writes songs. He does all kinds of different stuff. So he's just so multifaceted. And I love just getting to see it. I love going to his shows and people see him as a worship leader. And you're just a worship leader. Like, you can't really move on the stage when you're a worship leader. And so when he does like gigs out in the crowd and people, I just love people's reaction when he like breaks into your moments. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, when he did the finale song and everybody was like, what is happening? I'm like, yeah, that's who he is. But nobody ever gets to see that unless they come to his shows. So it's just been a journey and a beautiful ride for us as a family. But for me to watch him evolve and progress through our marriage has just been awesome. And I have no idea what's next, but I'm excited for it.
I love it. And I do want to ask, because I feel like you were just such a crowd pleaser and you from the get-go ultimately caught the attention of Blake Shelton. And what do you think it is about your music and maybe just who you are in general that stands you apart from other artists?
I wouldn't even know how to begin to answer that. You know, and it's not in some like humble way. You know, I just try to do me, whatever that is. I'm pretty comfortable in my own skin. You know, I think that's part of the privilege of being 38 years old and living life. And, you know, I went into this thing just extremely comfortable. I wasn't trying to be somebody. I'm not trying to make a splash in the music industry or, you know, I wanted to just be myself the most I could and really soak in each moment, you know, even through the whole process. I never looked past the stage I was in, you know. So when we went to the blinds, the initial round, I didn't think about anything beyond that. You know, it was exciting. I was nervous and all kinds of things, and then each stage, it was kind of just being in that moment and trying to do the best I could with what I'd been given. And you know, I think that translates, you know. People in the end, yeah, they want to be entertained. Excuse me. They want to be entertained, and all that stuff. But I think when you're comfortable in your own skin, and you're not desperate for people's approval, that actually tends to translate, and it feels honest. It feels genuine, you know. And that's honestly, you know, as far as like, I'll let people do what they want with the music, you know. Like I kind of buy into the philosophy that art, you just put out there and people can do whatever they want with it. They can respond to it however they want to it. And I don't feel any obligation to excuse me. I don't feel any obligation to make people like it or, you know, I want people to, obviously, and it's awesome when people do and they respond. It, you know, makes me feel fuzzy and it's awesome. I love it. But I think that was the key for me. It was just be genuine, be you, and enjoy it. You know, people see it when you enjoy something, you know, and you're not just like nonchalant. Like, this is a crazy, silly ride I got to ride on this last year. And I got to be a part of really bringing a lot of fun to people's lives. And it's such an awful year. And, you know, that there's nothing cooler than that. That's the best.
I think that one of the things that we noticed in that is that one of the things I heard consistently is that, oh yeah, the same Jim that everybody's getting to see on The Voice is the same Jim that we know. And for me and the kids, it was like, this is the same man that we have in our home all the time. The world just got to see it. And so what he's saying is so correct. He was just the same on the stage and off. And I think that that's what came through. And I think that that's what drew Blake to him, was just his genuineness and his authenticity. So
Yeah, and that's kind of what drew me to him too.
Yeah.
You know, at the same way. You know, I don't get me wrong. I would have been on any team happily, obviously. But you know, Blake is who he is. You know, like he's the same dude you get on camera as you get off camera, and working with him was awesome, because that I didn't feel like I had to be something, or you know, I tend to be country leaning, but I'm not a straight country singer. You know, I'm more of like a throwback soul singer a little bit. But I grew up on pretty much nothing but country music, so like I have this blend, and yeah, he never tried to take me out of that, and I think that's the reason we had fun together. You know, in the end, like we just really had fun together, and it was awesome.
Well, it's so cool to hear that you guys kind of had that shared soul of just being who you are, like on and off the stage. And speaking of which, so this journey has come to an end, but I feel like it has set you up for so much in the future. So I just wanted to ask you, have like some original songs too that came out of this. So what is next for you?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. Ain't it? You know, I don't know completely, but I do know that I'll never get away from music, and I definitely don't want to squander this momentum that I've been given. You know, it's I want to make music, and I want to squeeze every ounce of anything out of this thing that I possibly can, because you know, this was a beautiful ride, and yeah, the voice is over, but you know, all the fans that are now following me, and all the people who are like, you know, wanting to hear more music, and I love that. You know, it's but I'm not quite sure yet, you know, because it's so new. It's still so new and fresh, and you know, and everybody basically in the music industry went on break as soon as the show was over. Everybody was on break, so like, yeah, there's some conversations that I'm gonna be having here in the next couple of weeks, and so you know, maybe we can do a follow-up story at some point, because
Be great.
yeah, there's just a lot of what ifs out there right now, and possibilities, which is exciting. You know, like
Awesome.
it's super cool. But what I do know is that whatever it is, you know, I'm also at the same time, like I'm back here 100% as well. You know, and back at the church and serving with this lovely lady right here, and my pops and my mom, and so yeah, so I'm gonna keep doing the church thing and keep loving on people, and kind of waiting for this thing to unfold and see where it goes.
So you mean conversation? So I have to ask, like, are we hearing record deal possibly? Like what?
There, all those possibilities are out there, and that's the conversations that need to be had. You know, for me, it's about defining reality. You know, because like, don't get me wrong, this was amazing, but again, I'm also 38 years old. I've lived life, and I have a healthy sense of reality, and you know, sometimes these things are just big flash in the pan, and they're awesome, and you enjoy them, but then you just move on. And sometimes you're not, and I'm not trying to force it in any one direction or minimize it. But I'm also always defining reality of what is and what isn't, and then go from there. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I feel like, you know, I'm a little lost, because I don't know exactly what that is just yet, but I'm unbelievably excited. What's that?
I was just gonna say, it makes it all the more exciting though.
It is. It is. That's the whole thing, is like,
we feel like we're at the top of the roller coaster, like what's coming? We don't know.
Yeah, there's an ambiguity to it that is that's pretty exciting. You know, I'm not a big plan maker, so I kind of like life when I don't have to make a bunch of plans, and kind of fill it out. You know, and that's also just for me, it's living by faith, you know. So that's kind of, I love it when my blood boils a little bit, and it's kind of exciting, and it feels like you're jumping off of a ledge, and you know, so that's what this continues to feel like, and I love that.
That's a good outlook to have. And so is there anything that I did not touch on, you know, whether it's about like your upbringing or like the journey or the future that you would like to add to the story?
For me, this all comes back to our community as well. That is the biggest part of this whole thing. That was, I mean, it was, I knew people would have fun with it. I knew our community would have fun, our church and Bakersfield, and I knew that everybody would have fun with it. I had no idea how much fun they'd have with it. I can't go through a drive-through right now without people losing their minds. We were up at the mountains, and it's so funny, like the excitement people get. But it's not just about seeing me. It's truly the things that I keep hearing is like, thank you, for giving us so much joy in 2020, like helping our year wrap up in such a better way than it, had gone the whole time. That, that's really special. Like, and I think for me is, I don't know. To be a part of that is, it's really overwhelming. And that's when it's bigger than you, and it's special.
Bakersfield is such a community-based place. So I saw so many people posting about you, and now you have a whole day dedicated.
I know. How about that?
What does that feel like? You're like getting that designation from the mayor and be like, okay, we have a whole day dedicated to Gym Ranger.
Yeah, I don't even know. It's so, I mean, it's unbelievably silly and beautiful, and just I don't know. We're going to come up with a lot of creative ideas that are going to be the new traditions for Gym Ranger Day,
for sure.
And we haven't quite worked those out yet, but I think they'll unfold.
We'll have to wear hats.
It's got to wear hats.
Hats.
I don't know. I'm sure there's some sort of barbecue involved or something. Yeah, that's the stuff. I mean, it's like the recognition and things. It's amazing, and I don't take it for granted at all. To be recognized by your community is, I mean, it's something I never knew I wanted, but then when it happened, it was so beautiful. It was just so lovely.
I just want to again say thank you so much, both for your time, and so excited for your journey. It's cool to hear that someone locally has, done all this during the pandemic. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.